Hello everybody, Hassan here, engineer, MBA, and investor. And in today's video, I want to talk about Intellia data. I want to talk about the company. I want to talk about other companies in this space. What do they have to do to basically become number one in terms of market cap? I want to talk about those two topics in this video. Before we even do that, guys, please like this video, smash that like button. It's really quick, it's free, it's easy, it really helps this channel. A lot of you have been supporting our videos. The momentum has been amazing, so thank you very much for the support, guys. So please like it. If you have any comment, feedback, input, leave it in the comments below, guys. We try to read every single comment, and we even try to reply to every single comment. And if you haven't subscribed, guys, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscription button, guys. We are near 1,000 subscribers and up. The momentum is amazing, so thank you very much for the support. And one more note, guys, happy Canada Day to all Canadians. This is 1st July. This is the Canada Day. So happy Canada Day to every Canadian out there. Shout out to all Canadians that support this channel. I really appreciate the support. And shout out to everybody right around the world, right? Not just in Canada, but around the world, where we have supporters in India, we have supporters in England, we have supporters in Singapore. So thank you very much for the support, guys. So what I want to talk about in this video is some of the stuff that we've been talking about in the previous video this week. We talked a lot about NTLA 2001, the latest data published, but I feel like I didn't really go in depth as to why it's that important, right? So everybody knows at this point ex vivo versus in vivo, right? Ex vivo requires to extract certain information, modify it, and then re-implement it in the individual, in the patient. But in vivo is quite different, right? You don't have to extract and have all that process, all those delays, all those costs, right? You can literally implement the change, the modification directly in the liver, in this case, of the patient, and then boom, you have edited the gene, and you can hopefully knock out whatever you're trying to knock out, right? And in this case, right, in NTLA 2001, the idea was you had to reduce the TTR concentration, right? And this is caused by a gene. Really, the gene TTR, that gene basically is sometimes genetic, sometimes it is not. But if you can knock out that gene, you can reduce the TTR proteins, right? And then have less mutations, and then boom, you have been cured from the disease, right? So what we're looking at here, this was data that was published, obviously not anytime soon, not anytime recently. This was done a while ago, and this was done on non-primates, right, from Intellia. And we already knew this from the end samples here. What's important to note here is that you can clearly see that as you increase the dosage, right, of the treatment, right, from 1.5 to 3 to 6, you can clearly see the difference, right? If the blue line being 1.5 milligrams per kilogram, and then as you doubled it to 3, and if you doubled it again, you have significant increases. So obviously from 1.5 to 3, you had a huge reduction in TTR protein, right? And if you increase to 6, and that's the value you got, right? Obviously a little bit less difference between 3 to 6, but that still shows by increasing dosage you can further reduce your TTR proteins, right? And the idea is to really do that, right? Again, to treat this disease that NTLA 2001 is trying to treat. That's exactly what you have to do. The idea is to go as far as zero as you can, right? Because that protein is the one that causes that disease, right? When it's out of control. And then what happened is, in the data that was published last weekend, is that basically there were three set of patients, right? There were one that got a lower dosage, another one that got a middle dosage, and then another one that got only through 0.3 milligrams uh, of dosage, right, which is the highest out of the three sets. And clearly from that set of patients, which had n sample 3, you can see that one patient had 80% reduction, another patient had 84 reduction, and then another patient even had 96% reduction, right? And this average, I believe that average to 87 or whatever number they put. And really, one note to be made, guys, this is just the first 28 days, right? You guys saw from the previous graph, the number kept dropping slowly over time, right? And do remember that they actually have the data, right? They just didn't publish it, right? This I think the first patient was first dosed, I think late 2020, around November. So absolutely, of course, they have the data. It's just that they didn't publish it with for the announcement on last weekend, right? So obviously they do have the data, but due to regulations and whatnot, they cannot publish the data. And this is where we are after about a month, right? You can clearly see if you have over 80% of reduction in TTR protein, you're basically you can say this is a valid treatment because of the alternative that are out there. You can say that this is a valid treatment to cure this disease potentially. But again, this is just the first month. And I think I had a great comment from one of my viewers is that, guys, you guys saw what happened with Bluebird, a while ago, right? They had great data initially, but then boom, everything went downhill. A patient had cancer. So although it is positive, although it is bullish, although this was tested on non-humans, primates in the past, and the data has been extremely positive, it is a fact that these patients, not just in this set of data, but any set of data of any dosage, will have to be monitored lifelong, right? For any long-term side effects, right? This has to be done, right? And this has to be monitored. This is the nature of the business, right? You want the safety protocols to be followed, and you do want your treatment to go on mass market. You do want to commercialize it, but at the same time, you have to follow safety protocols. You have to monitor any side effect, any serious side effects. But again, we have no reason to believe that there is any set of negative data. What other companies did in the past, that was done through different technologies, through different leaderships, through different teams, different talent pools. We should not be just opposing those types of experience onto these newer technologies companies like Intellia, CRISPR Therapeutics, Beam Therapeutics. These are newer companies that are doing something different, and we should treat them unique, just the way we are basically explaining it in this video, right? This is totally new. This has never been done in the past. So this is new data. So hopefully the FDA will look at this differently, not right, and not use the same blueprint that they've used for other companies with legacy technologies or with different technologies that didn't really necessarily cure treat patients, but rather treat chronic issues. But that's another topic for another day. So I want to obviously talk about this, and then obviously just going back to the data, right? This is just the paper. One note I wanted to make: I just find it really crazy that you have to pay for these research papers. I think it's completely unfair for the average citizen. I think academia is one of the sectors that will be disrupted extremely hard by technology in the upcoming decades. I think the CEO of Coinbase, Brian Armstrong, talks a lot about this. Academia is so legacy. Like this system where you have to pay for research papers, that's so pathetic. Obviously, I can still get data from bits and pieces, just like we saw on Twitter and on Reddit. I can still see some screenshots, can see some paper, but just give me the whole paper. Just give me the whole paper for free. This information would be open source. This is great for humanity. Making people pay for these types of data, whether that's free trial or not, I think that's just pathetic. Just wanted to make a quick note on that. But anyways, the whole point of showing you guys this is, again, this was published. The data was published. 87 was their average. 80 to 80 96. I think there was some comments, people saying that they didn't necessarily know all three patients exact data beside the 96 one on the third set, but we do have it, right? We do have it. It's here: 80, 84, and then the 96 that they announced. So we know all three had above 80 after 80% reduction after only 28 days. Okay. And another note I want to make here on Intellia's website: when you go on the website, you can clearly see a pop-up coming up, and then the CEO and president of the company, John Leonard, he said, "This milestone opens a new era in CRISPR genome editing. It's the first data in history supporting our ability to inactivate a disease-causing gene within the body with a single system infusion. We have unlocked a path and potentially cured diseases that were never accessible before." That's a really bullish statement there, right off the bat, right off the website. I think the CEO, we've seen some of his comments in the past weeks. He's been really bullish about the progress. I mean, the whole team at Intellia, It's been amazing, and I think this warrants maybe a quick conversation on the leadership and execution of Intellia, right? Intellia was literally the only company in this space that, not only are they adamant about in vivo approach, but they're pushing the ex vivo approach through one of their programs in their pipelines, right? Several programs in their pipeline. But most importantly, they even adopted the base editing technology a few weeks ago. And although no one really is aware of what's going to happen with the whole patent situation, licensing situation, with Beam Therapeutics. It is what it is, right? That's what they announced. And I think this leadership has been amazing. It's one of the things I mentioned in my early videos. I think it was like episode 7 or episode 8. Highly advise you guys to watch it. I talked about their leadership when I was analyzing this company, and I find it very diverse in terms of leadership. Diverse not just in terms of skill set, but also just in terms of the gender. If you take a look at their board, if you take a look at their leadership, you'll see a quite nice mixture. And I think that's what you want to see through leaderships in a company like this, right? And I think it's just amazing how they were able to execute. And really, this is what you need to do, right? Get the job done, right? This is how simple it is. Just get the job done. As much as respect, pretty companies publishing pretty papers out there, it's great for the space, it's great for scientists, it's great for researchers. Ultimately, there are patients out there dying every single day of diseases, and you as a company, you have a duty to get the job done, right? And there are investors pouring their hard-earned money into these companies, Intellia, CRISPR Therapeutics, Beam Therapeutics, Editas, and so on, because they believe in a future where we can eradicate diseases, or at least eradicate most of them, right? At least try to do it, right? Right now, we are doing absolutely nothing in terms of what is FDA approved through CRISPR. We have alternatives that are extremely costly. It's not proper alternatives. So the whole space is really excited for this. Not just investors, like scientists, researchers, and even average citizens. Right? Think about the average citizen when I showed you guys that Reddit article, that Reddit post on the our science subreddit. People are quite excited, right? But it's still early, guys. We are so early. And I'm really bullish about this. And one more point I want to make here is that Intellia, they announced that they are now raising $600 million cash from public markets, and not 400 million, which was what they originally announced. But at the time that they actually executed, the stock price went up, so they raised $600 million of cash. So they literally doubled their cash position, this past week. So that means they now will hold $1.2 billion in cash, and by our calculation, they can literally burn cash in their R&D expenses and so on for the next 4, 5, 6 years without even having a single dollar revenue or even raising money from the public market, which obviously will not be the case, but it's still food for thought, guys. They are set. This is what you want to see. They have the green light to execute. They have the green light to go forward. The fear is behind them now. Now it's all about execution. It's all about looking at phase one Antilia 2001 data, and I think it's just amazing what they've announced. And another note here is that um, let me just remove this. Is that they have filed for IND filings basically for NTLA 2002, right? And this is what treats a rare disease, genetic disease that's called HAE, right? And this is in their second program that they hope to do it through in vivo again in June 2021, which was literally like 2 days ago or yesterday, I believe. They filed for that, and this is what they call it CTA, and that is basically documentation required by regulatory authorities in many countries outside the US seeking for authorization to go through from preclinical trial, which is done through non-human primates studies, to clinical human trials, right? Going through phase one, just like what NTLA 2001 is all about. That's what they just filed for, and we expect this will be accepted, obviously. And this is great news for them, great news for Intellia. They are executing, they are getting the job done. That's what you want to see. And I guess I want to end this video as I promised. What does, a companies like CRISPR Therapeutics have to do to get back to that number one spot in market cap? And again, maybe it's too early to talk about this because it's way too fresh for a company like Intellia to get right at number one. Obviously, they're riding off the momentum from the recent news, But I truly believe that they will be holding that number one spot for a time in terms of market cap valuation. And the reason why I believe this is because I think other companies like CRISPR Therapeutics have to prove to the public that they are also willing to venture into the different technologies, that they have the execution to do so, right? It's really hard, right, to adopt a program like in vivo, and obviously jump into base editing. You need a different talent pool. You restructure your teams, you need to restructure your R&D, you have to all this PR, you have to answer all these questions, you have to be in a position to answer all these questions. It's very hard to do so, right? Until you prove that it can be done, but can other companies do it? And I truly believe that until CRISPR Therapeutics and Beam Therapeutics, even, they don't do such, I don't believe that anyone will be dethroning Antilia anytime soon. Another note on Beam Therapeutics themselves. Again, I'm a big fan of the technology. I'm a big fan of base editing. I've covered in this channel. I highly advise you guys to look into it. But ultimately, Beam Therapeutics, they need to execute and file for IND filings, right? They have not filed for any IND filing. Even the company like Graphite Bio, uh, in the genome editing space, they filed for IND filing. So what's going on? You have to, and they got it, and that graphite bio got those papers approved. So what is going on? You have to execute. I think it's all about execution. It's all about leadership. And I know it's easy to say that, and you may think that it just takes one email, or it just takes like a CEO like Dr. Sam from CRISPR Therapeutics to just like rally everyone together and let's go. But ultimately there are so many layers you have to go through. Forget about like the obvious stakeholders. We talk about shareholders, but the whole reorg that needs to happen, new teams, new expenses, new PR, you have to explain that to not just internally but externally as well. These are huge efforts, right? And the question remains, can companies like CRISPR Therapeutics, Beam Therapeutics, Editas, can they really execute on that level? I personally think they can do it. I just think it'll take time, and by then, I'm not sure if they'll be too late, because I strongly believe Antilia here, and it's not just riding on this week's momentum. I think they have shook the world. I think they have basically entered into the space with a huge bang. They are no longer the dark horse of this space. They are the most valuable company. We covered this in the previous video. So great news. Hopefully, you guys found some value from it. Went a little bit over the board here, but really, I wanted to really go back to the NTLA 2001 data, talk about how important it is and what we can expect in the future. Also, talk about the public funds that they raised recently, and a correction on that figure, which puts them on a green light, a great green light for this company to go further. And also talked about their recent NTLA 2001 filing, and then contrasted with other companies in the space. What do they have to do to execute, right? And we'll see how it goes, guys. We are big fans of every single company in this space. I think it's great news for everybody. I'm really happy. Again, congratulations to all shareholders, not just Intellia shareholders, but Beam Therapeutic shareholders, Editas, CRISPR Therapeutics, all these companies, even Verve Therapeutics, right? And Bio, like I said, Graphite Bio, and all these companies have increased in valuation, and makes sense, right? Institutions are coming in, legacy media is starting to cover these companies like CNBC. We talked about it briefly. So thank you very much for watching, guys. No video tomorrow. Again, happy Canada Day to all Canadians. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. Like this video if you can, guys. It's quick, it's free, it's easy, and have a great day. Thank you very much.